fantasy, rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame, sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key, taking us normies on a bumpy ride, casting those emotions aside. Trendline breaks in sight, managing the risk, stop loss is just right, can't be missed. Blessing us with humor, memes every day, exquisite laughs while he shows the way. Always chasing that 60-day cycle, no randos constantly saying I told you so. A left translated cycle most can't forgive, the only thing being sticky is a narrative. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key, taking us normies on a bumpy ride, casting those emotions aside. What a time to be alive in so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place, milking the markets for all he's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key, taking us normies on a bumpy ride, casting those emotions aside. So Camel Crew, keep calm and carry on, pushing those trades long and strong. Left traded cycle theory, moving in place. Double hump daddy, set the pace. What a time to be alive, so many ways. While the world goes to shit, he pushes his place, milking the markets for all he's got with a smile. Stick around, you'll be here for a while.
All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and we are live. We are live, so if someone could confirm you can hear me, that'd be great. Everything seems to be working on my end at least. I thought today what we would do, since it is indeed CPI day, is have a look at the data which is due in around 1 hour. So we're gonna have it here, and yeah, we're gonna go through it. I'll answer some comments. I've got like a rough outline. I wanted to first of all make some excuses. Let me just check. We can hear what I mean. Can anyone hear me? Can someone confirm they can hear me? Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, great. Thank you. I thought first of all what I'd do is make a few excuses. If I'm not my usual peppy self and I'm not as sharp as normal, then it's because I didn't sleep at all last night. So forgive me for that. Why live? I wanted to explain this. I thought I'd make a video this morning, but then I realized there's not a great deal to say really until we've seen the data. And then you know how it is, right? Even after we've seen the data, there's going to be some chops, some games, some volatility and all of that good stuff. So I thought what I would do is outline the idea that I've got for inflation, show you where it's right, where it's wrong. Then we'll kill a bit of time and do a Q&A. I'm sure some people will want some charts requesting or something like that. And then hopefully in about an hour, we should be able to get the CPI data from Financial Juice, which is what I normally use. And like I said, then we'll know, right? We'll know if it's hot, cold or flat. And from there, it'll be time to go back to work. So I'm probably going to put my time and energy into the charts and into the members section. And that's about that. So I'll quickly have a flick through the comments. Loads of people in here. So that's cool. Thank you for coming, everyone. I really appreciate it. Everything is good my end. Okay, so let's do this outline really quickly, just for the sake of understanding my idea. So as you probably are well aware, I think anything you do to the M2 rate of change shows up in this CPI with a bit of a lag. And this was right all the way up and all the way down, including this wobble, which is currently presenting as sticky inflation. And I have been saying that what we should see is this final leg that lower show up in CPI, right? If I click into this next chart, it kind of looks like, at least to my eye, that it wants to do this. That's what it kind of looks like. But if we don't get cold data today, and certainly if we get let's say, flat or sticky or hot data today, followed by another month, then this chart will start to look much more like this, right? And if it does, then I kind of have a problem with remaining with this idea, with being steadfast that we are going to see disinflation continue if the chart morphs into this kind of look, right? So for me, and for the inflation component of my base case hypothesis, I really need to see a cold print. And even if it's marginally cold, that's probably not going to cut it. We're going to need to see this thing start to really come off if this component of my idea is correct. So it's a big day for me and my inflation hypothesis, which is being severely tested. Like I said, I'm pretty sure anything you do to this shows up here, but that component is missing. Admittedly, right before this stopped working, right before this stopped tracking, they did change the calculation. Maybe I'm just making excuses, but either way, it's not really about being right or wrong. It's about understanding what is happening in front of us. So as you know, this to me speaks to moving lower, but if we don't see it move lower, then of course something else is going on under the hood. And I don't want to be dogmatic and stick to this idea if it's simply out of the question. So that is the first bit of inflation dealt with. Like I said, we're about 55 minutes away from getting the print, and we'll go over that in real time. I also have been using this to say that we should probably expect continuation of disinflation since the TMC Global Credit Impulse tends to lead CPI lower by about 18 months. So again, we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out today. And then the next component of this, which is super important, is whether or not these rate cuts show up. And we might, and again, this might be optimistic, but we might be at a stage where it's not going to even matter if the inflation print is sticky, because the ECB has already cut, as we know, so has Canada, so has Sweden, Switzerland, Hungary, the Czech Republic. So usually what you see is a bunch of central banks go first and then the rest follow. I doubt we're going to see major divergence here, although that does seem to be consensus in the market. I will say this, if we get if we get a cold print, right? If inflation comes in below expectation today, then moving into the Fed speak a bit later on today, they will have all of the excuses they need to point at the data and say, look, everyone else is cutting rates, okay? We can follow soon as well, which we need to do because otherwise it's going to lead to a higher dollar and more tight financial conditions. So they'll have that as an excuse, and they'll be able to point at a lower CPI print and say, look, it's on our way down to 2%. So we're happy with that inflation is going to come off and continue to come off. So that's the big thing, right? I'm not so worried about whether or not this shows up, whether or not it doesn't show up. I'm not so worried about whether this morphs into this look or this look. I'm more concerned with, are the rate cuts actually coming sooner than most people anticipate? Because if I click into the CME, this thing, as a rule of thumb, anytime it is 85% skewed in one direction or the other, it's almost always correct. And right now, it's 99% sure that we're going to be remaining paused. And if we click out to July, you know, again, it's very, very sure of itself that there are no rate cuts coming. So if rate cuts are indeed going to be put on the table today in the Fed speak, if there's going to be dovish hints that rate cuts might be coming, they don't even have to come, but it just has to have Powell say, yeah, we're thinking about cutting, then this will be one of the most significant repricings I've ever seen in my career. I've never seen it this skewed and end up being wrong. But as you are well aware probably by now, the writing is on the wall as far as I can tell, and all it will take is for that CPI print to come off today. So we don't know if it's going to happen. Like I said, it's a big component of my thesis that is being severely tested, but the good news is we get to find out pretty soon, in around 50 minutes. And the last thing I wanted to point out, just in case anyone's unaware, the Fed funds rate is in orange, and in green we've got the US 2-year yield. If this thing is going to roll over, it is the signal, in my humble opinion, for incoming cuts. We've seen it every other time throughout history. And as I often say when I show this chart, if we look back here, we got a C19 crash. Here, we got the GFC in 2008. And here, we got the dot-com bubble bust. So if we do see this 2-year yield lower, we do get dovish hints from the Fed that they're thinking about cutting rates, and we see this thing move lower, then typically speaking, the top for the stock market is very, very close. So that's the big reason I want to watch this. And of course, we always, as ever, we know our invalidation levels, right? If what we get is a trendline breakout here, the US 2-year yield higher, then this is no longer telling us to expect cuts, right? But if this 2-year yield rolls over, then it will look exactly like every other time. And that for me will be a big, big warning to start to be very mindful that major tops are coming in. If we hop into the 2-year yield as it stands, you can see right here, if I move this out of the way, okay, so far it's in no man's land. So if this thing is to break out above the red, then we can say higher for longer is true. But if this thing starts to break down, particularly losing the local lows denoted by this yellow horizontal squiggle, we get something like this, okay, and indeed cuts are coming. So there's probably going to be a lot of chop and games as always for CPI. And then we got the Fed speak later on, about 7:30 UK time. And again, I expect more chop and more games to be played. So it's going to be an interesting day. That is the outline component dealt with for anyone that was interested. Somebody asked me to look at the UKX just before I hop into the comments. I think it was Bell on Twitter. So here's the FTSE 100, okay? Note, little breakdown. So is the second one going to hold? Are we then going to set a third a bit later in life? Or is that the top? Are we not even going to get the blow off top? I did notice that in CNBC, they're blaming the slowing economy on the rain. They're saying that wet weather has deterred shoppers, and that's why no one's spending any money. It's nothing to do with the 20% inflation we've just had and all of that good stuff. So I did think that was funny. Other than that, before we have the CPI print, the futures are more or less flat. Okay, that's to be expected. And as I said, we're going to get the data at around 1:30 UK time, which is in about 50 minutes-ish. So that is that dealt with. I'm going to hop into the comments and see what you guys are saying. You can pretty much ask me anything. I will say this. People always ask me about altcoins and they always want me to chart their altcoins. First of all, I'm not an altcoin guy. Second of all, if you ask for an altcoin and I do chart it for you, I will probably just make fun of it. So don't take that personally. It is what it is. And of course, if you're a member, I have to take your request. So anyway, that is that. For everyone else, thank you for being here. I'm taking a look through the comments now and we will see, right? We will see. Someone says, when's the inflation data? I think we've answered that. Joel is coming in from Chicago. Hello, brother. Oh, somebody sent me a gold back to the PO box, a gold back dollar. So thank you, whoever that was. But it doesn't say who it was from. It just says, just for you, Mr. Camel, enjoy. So thank you for whoever sent me that. I really appreciate it. Is oil worth shorting? Yeah, NASCO just brought oil to my attention as it goes. Look at that. So is that a weekly cycle? If I put this on the weekly time frame. What's going on here? Get rid of that. I think it's probably in that neighborhood, right? 25 bars. That could well be the weekly cycle there. That could well be it. So I wonder what that implies, if anything. But that could well be the weekly cycle and a daily cycle as well. I wonder if what we've got next is at least a pretty good squeeze before it can think about rolling over. I would not be wanting to short here, to be completely honest with you. I think we probably want to let this thing play out, maybe even get some kind of false breakout, run all of the stops, and then think about moving down. So for me, that's not for me. The time to get short really was back here, as you know, if you were following me, but we don't always nail it. Hello from Amsterdam, Australia. We are really going global today, it seems. When will the portfolio be green again? I don't know. It really depends on CPI. What are the expectations for AI-related stocks and crypto? I don't really follow AI, to be honest. Why does Bitcoin have a 60-day cycle? I have no idea. No one's really sure. There are some theories that range from it being correlated to the moon phases, and there are some that pertain to it being driven largely by futures and options expiries. That one sounds more likely to me, but I don't know. Yeah, TLT, it's not the time for me personally. I'm not into TLT at the moment. Do I care about Ethereum? No, not really. The thing with Ethereum that I still can't get away from, it might be Ethereum time soon, right? But if you chart ETH against Bitcoin, is that right? What have I typed in? There you go. I mean, this just doesn't look good, does it? I know people are calling bottoms here, but so far it's a fake breakout. And it may well mean that it's got to come down again. So that speaks to relative Bitcoin overperformance. And really, I mean, why would you have held it? You'd have been better off holding Bitcoin. That's just, it is what it is. Break out and reverse, something like this. And then maybe it's time to be more heavily positioned in Ethereum. I don't personally like it or respect it or any of the stuff surrounding it, but to each their own, of course. Chart Brett, please. What is Brett? How's Jasmine doing? Yeah, Jasmine's going okay, right? That was one we had in the members section. This is what I'm interested in, the stock market at the moment. So if I pull this back, get this thing out of the way again. The thing I'm a little bit touchy about, and I was going to speak to members about this after this live stream, is there's a chance that's a 30-day cycle low, which is pretty early, right? But if we look at this price action, unless we're just going to get a 1 to 2 day decline and go, which would be really nice if we did, it'd be super easy to identify, be right in the timing window, normal to be expected for CPI, all of that jazz. But unless we get this, then, you know, we're closing at all-time highs right now, and there's plenty of fear on the fear and greed index for the stock market. So if we get a cold print, this thing's probably just going to go straight into third angle territory. So we might have to be breakout traders here, perhaps, as opposed to a cycle low dip buyer. But the cycles are down, so for now, I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic about seeing that. Someone says short Bitcoin, be bearish like Soloway. Oh dear. Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it. Lincolnshire, let's go. What am I thinking about the miners like Marathon? I think they're probably waiting for CPI. I think they're probably waiting to see Bitcoin move as well. Bitcoin silver is breaking down, but you also predict silver will go down. Yeah, so just because the Bitcoin silver ratio is going down doesn't necessarily mean it has to continue and sustain a downtrend. Right now, it speaks to silver overperformance relative to Bitcoin, but the weekly cycle is down for gold, right? It's down for a number of weeks till mid to late July, and the same for silver. So unless Bitcoin's going to tank harder than this, I would probably expect that ratio to reverse in the not too distant future. Morning lost. That is my thoughts on gold and silver, really. They're due a weekly cycle. It doesn't have to be as low as this. I mean, this back test of the big range in blue would be pretty logical, right? But I don't know if you're going to get it that deep. It might stop only somewhere in this neighborhood. But for me, it's a timing thing. I want to wait and see the middle to the late of July and look for a weekly swing in there. I do think, given the way the cycles are down, any kind of pump or even breakout that occurs, should it occur on CPI, will probably be quickly faded and reversed. So that's my thoughts, but in here, getting ready to go in heavy on the gold market and things related to the gold market. Hello from Turkey. I didn't know there was so many people from around the world. I thought it was largely America and the UK. This is really cool. How much time till CPI released? About 40 minutes. What else do you respect in the crypto space? Oh, who else on YouTube? I don't watch a great deal of crypto YouTube, to be honest. Am I holding any meme coins? I am not holding any meme coins. Who I don't respect? Nah, we're not going there. Does it matter if you use log or standard? It doesn't. Actually, good point though. Check this out. So I typically, it's a personal preference thing, right? I personally prefer regular charts. That's what I did in prior cycles. It worked just fine. But if we zoom in, and maybe I got a cleaner chart to show you actually. Is this one clean? Yeah, here we go. Okay, so if I grab my trend line, at the moment, this is regular scale. We're rocking with this situation here, right? But what's really interesting to me is if we flip this on log, this line, including the current pullback, okay, fits rather nicely. Yeah, touch here, another touch here. So I do wonder if maybe log is the correct application for this Bitcoin chart. I know that's not revolutionary by any stretch of the imagination, but 1, 2, possible 3 coming in later after CPI. Maybe that's wishful thinking. Or, of course, the other way to look at it is if we get this back off of log like this. Okay, then we've got the first one in here somewhere, the second one here, and maybe Bitcoin needs to sell off one final time to touch the second angle one final time, and then it can look for a third later in life. Maybe that's another scenario. Hi, every cloud. Distract you with GameStop. Nah, that thing's such a distraction. I don't think anyone should give any energy to that, and it's probably going to end badly. A random piece of general life advice from the Camel. Forgive people and forgive yourself. Crypto YouTube thinking about big numbers. Yeah, it could be. Caleb, nice to see you, brother. What is Trump with hat, dare I ask? I don't want to know. Can I look at the Bitcoin gold chart again? Yeah, I can. Let's do that. One of these, isn't it? This one. Log weekly. And a reset. Slowing down and deviating a little bit, right? But I mean, Bitcoin does Bitcoin things very, very fast. For example, I'm not saying this is coming, of course. I'm just saying as an example, you know, that is not beyond the realm of possibility for Bitcoin. Even half of that from here or something is, you know, from here upwards, not beyond the realm of possibility. Objectively speaking, it is deviating away, although I never, of course, expected it to follow this arbitrary fractal. It's just a fractal. But overall, it's not looking too bad, I don't think. Not looking too bad. Maybe if we go to a daily time frame. We got a breakout yet? Yeah, that looks like a breakout, right? Looks like it's thinking about it. It's tentative. So, I don't know. Overall, I think it's more or less doing what it's supposed to do. Unless it was to roll over here, which I don't think it will because of where the weekly cycle is for gold, as I was just saying earlier on. The weekly cycle's down for a good couple of weeks, about a month really, maybe a month, 6 weeks, somewhere in that neighborhood, you know, mid to late July. So Bitcoin would have to really, really nosedive for this fractal to not continue to play out. I think it's much more likely that as gold moves towards its cycle low, we'll see more of an upside squeeze in this ratio. And then I would like 100 ounces for a Bitcoin. I think that's quite a nice trade. But am I going to get it? I don't know. I will consider this successful if we can get to 65 and above in the ratio. I think if we get somewhere in that neighborhood, that puts us about 180-ish K for gold. For Bitcoin. And yeah, we'll take it from there, I guess. But it's not time yet, right? We got before you can even complete this trade, we've got to see the upside squeeze. We've got to see the top in Bitcoin. We've got to exit that, pay some tax, hide in cash for a while because gold should tank with everything else initially. And then I'll be looking to get hold of some gold and take it from there. Try and catch up with some of these comments. The What podcast is in the house. If anyone has not been to the What podcast, then go and check that out. CPM, can you put a link in if you've got one or a handle? Thoughts on Trump promoting Bitcoin? I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think it's positive, but I kind of believe all the governments are two sides of the same coin and voting doesn't really matter anyway. I don't know if that's true. That's just how I've always seen it. I mean, if it builds hype, right? If it builds hype in the mainstream that Trump's going to get elected and Trump's pro-crypto, then you could expect that to perhaps whip up some FOMO and some frenzy in the Bitcoin and crypto space. Every cloud says, am I confident with the cycle count for Bitcoin at the moment? I mean, I'm never confident. Take this off of weekly. I'm more or less confident in this count here. I don't much like this one, which I think Bob Lucas and a few other cycle traders have marked. Technically speaking, it is the lowest low, but my experience tells me that is probably more likely to be the cycle low. And the reason I say that is this marries up perfectly with having a half cycle low shakeout right now. Whereas if we go from this count, then that's pretty late. So I don't much like that. I think I like my count. I also think a lot of the crypto miners that we were covering in the members section, they're all behaving as if that's the cycle low, not that. So I'm pretty confident in this current count. It largely depends what happens from here, but it's kind of stuck, right? Again, it all comes down to CPI. That's the main reason I wanted to go live today. See the CPI, make a quick summary, and then it's a case of, for me at least, watching from the sides, letting the dust settle, and seeing what happens. Hi from Canada. Hello, brother. I've lost my way in the comments. Purple tie crew, very good point. If Power's wearing a purple tie today, then he's probably going to hint at rate cuts, and the market's probably going to front run those rate cuts, and we're probably going to get a nice big upside squeeze. So look out for that. And of course, blue or grey tie is puts. What's my exit strategy for Bitcoin? I just sell the trendline breakdowns and look for confirmation via failed daily cycles. I also have like a tool that mashes together all of the, well, a handful of on-chain metrics, which I use for a little bit of confidence. But overall, it's the price that I'm interested in. It's the chart that I want. That's what I use. Total 2 looks strikingly similar. What does it look similar to? Where did I just read that? July 2019. Somewhere in here. Wait, somewhere in here. Could be in for an 18-month bear consolidation. Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think so. Doesn't it look more like something like this? Yeah. Looks more like that, right? Doesn't it? Am I crazy? I by no means think it's going that high. 10 trillion? No way. I think you'd be lucky to get 3. But can't argue that from a time and a structure perspective. That's pretty close in my humble opinion. It will need a catalyst for sure. But I think that's probably more likely than the 18-month bear market low. And I'm not even an altcoin guy, remember. So, did I trade Bitcoin in the past in the same way I do now? Yeah, I mean, I look at all this stuff like inflation data and traditional markets and dollar strength. I look at all that just to give me an idea of what is kind of going on in the bigger picture of the longer term. But ultimately, I just take each chart individually. So for Bitcoin, I just trade the cycles, right? I know every 60 days approximately there's going to be a cycle low, and I know there's a 4-year cycle low roughly every 4 years, and then we should get a nice bull market, a nice rip higher out of that. Later in life, there's another one of those 4-year cycle lows at the end of 2026, and somewhere between the two, I'd like to try and exit a good chunk of it, if not all of it, and then look to load back up out of that bear market low. Kind of the same deal for the S&P, right? I take this thing individually. I know there's going to be every 40 odd days, there's going to be a daily cycle. I know that generally speaking, this market trends up, so it's better to be bullish bias than bearish bias. There are times, usually around April and October, where we see weekly cycle low declines, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. So yeah, the macro sounds cool, and you look like a wizard and a genius if you get it right, but You know, there's a lot of people that are good at macro and bad at macro. It doesn't really make a difference, right? What makes a difference is, can you manage risk? Can you stick to a strategy? And can you take profit from the market? So that's always where my focus is. Brendan says, cheers, Camel. Never trading, but always listening. Thanks, brother. I don't know if I agree, James. Why is gold a pain? I'm not sure. I want something outside of the system. It depends how much counterparty risk you're comfortable taking. But I don't really want to keep all my money inside the system. And I also don't want to hold an 80-volt asset during a prolonged bear market, especially if it left translates. Then we're looking at multi-year declines, and I don't really want to hold Bitcoin through that. I don't want to keep the amount of cash that I have either in a bank. Dan says CPLI. Yeah, you are absolutely correct. We're about half an hour away from the CPLI data. So that's pretty cool. Ramos has donated $5. Thank you, brother. Can I look at the Mara divided by Bitcoin chart? It provides a lot of insight on the relative valuation, entry, and positions. Love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, okay. Mara BLX would be fine, wouldn't it? What are we looking at? I mean, I'm not sure what to draw from this, to be honest. You would expect this thing to, I guess, largely underperform for the most part, right? And then squeeze higher as we put in tops. And that's exactly what that is, to be fair. I wonder if that happens back here as well. Where did the top come in for Bitcoin? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure I like this as an idea, to be honest. I mean, is it going to break out? At some point, Mara has potential to outperform Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin's going to run to like 150k, say, then can Mara do double or triple that? Yeah, maybe. But I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm being stupid about it, but I'm not really sure how I would use this. I'm not really sure there's alpha for me personally in here. I'm spending some time, so I'm trying to think what I'm missing. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of ratios particularly. I know I like the gold to silver, the gold to Bitcoin 1. But yeah, I'm not really sure. How do you use that? I think you're probably better off playing Marathon as it is and Bitcoin as it is. That's my humble opinion anyway. Shift's hairline going to zero. Is he losing his hair? It's probably less of an age thing and more of a dogmatic approach towards Bitcoin thing, I would imagine. But he's gonna, you do realize at some point gold is gonna go to 5 figures, and he's gonna be insufferable with the "I told you so's." Do I think the EU elections being more right orientated? To be honest, brother, I don't even know the difference between right and left. That's how apolitical I am. I have no vested interest in even knowing the difference. I don't believe voting works. I don't believe in politics or any of that stuff. So I don't really know. It is hump day. Yeah, you're right. Do I take moon cycles into consideration? No, I don't. I don't really believe in them, to be honest. Lucky to get 3 trillion. Yeah, honestly, that's what I think. I think you'd be lucky to get 3 trillion. I don't think this... The macro backdrop does not support a 10 trillion altcoin market. Like, where is that risk going to come from when we're going to start to see them... the bond signal that cuts are coming, and the rest of the central banks already cutting. You know, there's this idea that a lot of retail has that these cuts are bullish, but they're not. They're just not, you know. Back here, we went C19 crash. Back here, GFC. Back here, .com bubble. So, I don't know, man. I don't know how you see a 10 trillion. Things would have to move so unbelievably fast to get to 10 trillion. I just don't think the macro supports it. Angel coming in from Montana. Hello. What made me get into trading markets? I think I've said this before. I went like university, got a job as a scientist, and within a year, I got my pension statement through the post, and I was like, man, that's not going to be enough. So then I started looking into the stock market, and eventually realized that that's how you can give yourself the quality of life that I desired. So that's that. How do I like the relatively low Bitcoin volatility? I mean, compression precedes expansion, right? So that's that. I just hope that expansion is north, not south. How long did it take me to become a profitable trader? I spent the first 4 years making good money and then blowing accounts up. I think I've blown 3 accounts, and yeah, it wasn't until year 5, and that might be slow, to be fair. That might speak to me not being very good. But for me, it was all a discipline thing. It was all the inability to keep risk managed and to keep individual trade stops to 2% of the account and sector risk contained to 6%. That was the one change I made, and the one change that most people can make that will turn you into a profitable trader. The rest doesn't really matter. It's the risk that matters. And people think of trading as a skill set, but it's not. It's a discipline. And the reason most people can't actually succeed in trading, and the reason most people will have a career shorter than 3 years, is simply they are undisciplined, right? They lack the discipline to they can't make a few winning trades and then resist the urge to go, well, I'm really good at this, time to triple down, right? Time to bet half my account on the next trade. And similarly, they can't take a few losses without saying to themselves, well, time to lever up, right? I've got to win that back. Time to bet the farm. That's what happens. And if you look at your account and you're a not very good trader, you look at your account, what you'll find is you make some money and you give it all back. You make some money, you give it all back. And all you have to do is, instead of give it all back, just keep those risks managed, keep that stop loss size to 2% of your account, keep sector risk contained to 6% at a time, and suddenly you'll find the equity curve goes up and to the right as opposed to up and then immediately back down, right? That's the problem that people have. But it's kind of good news, bad news, right? The good news is all it actually takes to be a profitable trader is to promise yourself you're not going to take any risks bigger than 2% on an individual trade. That's all you have to do. But the bad news is 90% of the human population is incapable of doing that. Just like 90% of the population is incapable of, working out every day or becoming grade 8 at the violin or whatever. Like, most people will pick something up, try it and throw it away because they don't have the discipline to stick to it. So if you just promise yourself to manage risk, promise yourself you're not going to take big losses, then you'll be really profitable in no time. But the reality is, as I said, most people can't actually do that. They just physically are incapable of doing that. Are members' videos level 3? Yeah, I do some for all levels. Occasionally I do like Ask Me Anythings or chart requests for all levels. But generally speaking, yeah, if you want the members' setups and the live signals, that is a level 3 thing. What else we got? I'm really behind in these comments. Is that true? Big shmoney. No way. Wow, okay. Retard is an anagram of trader. Wow, you learn something new every day, right? Well, big shmoney, I wouldn't say that. I would say, yeah, for most people, you can invest. For investing is fine. But that risk management thing still applies to investing, right? How many people, take a position for a long term, right? And they don't have a stop loss on it. Sure, you can have wider and size the position down. You don't have to have 2% stop on a long-term stock hold. But, saying I'm going to invest this much money into Apple shares and hold it for the long term. If Apple then, or Tesla's a really good example. How many people are long-term holders in Tesla? Right? How many people are long-term holders of this? Because what are you talking about, right? Manage the risk. At least have some point on the chart where you say, okay, I'm out of the trade until it gets back above resistance in purple. At least have some area on the chart like where you're out of the trade and you say, well, once it breaks that, I'll get back in, right? So even if you're not a trader, not an active trader, then, still have a chart and still manage the risk. Do I believe in buying and holding long swing trades? Yeah, I've got a long-term component of my portfolio. So I've got like Bitcoin that I've held since the lows that I buy every 4 years at the lows, and I hold that until I think the top is in. I've got a stock portfolio that I do the same with. The trading account is just like a section of my overall portfolio. So yeah, I got some gold and a bunch of other things. So. But when I'm talking about trading, I'm talking about the trading account. I'm talking about your short-term trading opportunities accounts. That's where you need to manage the risk. Well, you need to manage risk everywhere, but it's a different strategy for longer-term things. JB says, just in the not losing money stage right now. Yeah, that's good. Okay, then you're putting risk first. You're putting risk first. And as long as you can size the trades, right, your confidence will build. As long as you don't bet the farm, you can't take chunks out of your account. But it's the chunks that you take out of your account that are really, really difficult to recoup. And it takes a lot longer to put that dent back in your account than it does to take it out. Henrik expects a huge drop for gold after the blow off top. I'm not sure. Like, Henrik has been really, really good at calling the markets. Really, really, really good. But he has the one thing he's gotten wrong is gold. That is the one thing he's been flat wrong on. And so, I don't know. I don't see it dropping that much, personally. But I'm open to anything and everything. I think the central banks have too much of a big position higher up to let it go to 1200. That would be my thoughts on that. I didn't watch Protocol 7. No. Is it out? I only saw the trailer. I don't need to see it. I know I know what it is. Purple tie will determine the move. Yes, it will. In the case of cold or inline CPI data, how are you looking to enter a position? It depends on the setup. It depends on the setup. As always, I want to let the dust settle and see what the setups are like at the time. I mean, if we're breaking above all-time highs, then we're breaking above all-time highs, right? You play the breakout from higher up, but hopefully we're going to get a pullback. That's what I'm hoping for. %2 seems to be the golden number for risk. Why not 3 or 4%, for example? Because if you flip a coin enough times, you're going to have 10 heads in a row or 10 tails in a row. And if you have 10 twos, that's 20%. If you have 10 fours, that's 40% of your account's half your money gone, right? That's why it's so important to be 2. Preferably 1 to 2, but obviously it's going to need to be 2 whilst you've got a smaller account. And also after 6%, the risks start to work mathematically against you as well. It starts to, if you take a 6% chunk out of your account, then you only need about 6.1 or 6.2% in your next trade to get back to break even. But after that, by the time you get to a 50% loss in your account, you need your next trade to double. You need 100% just to put that 50% back in your account and get back to break even. So this is what people don't get. Trading is not that hard. It's a discipline. Everyone can do TA. RGX, yep, nice one. I was also in Tesla for a bit. We hopped out. It's all you can do, right? Better than hold it down forever. Did some calculations on Wolf. If Bitcoin stays stable around this price, the stock is undervalued by about 50%. Yeah, interesting. Wolf's one we had in the members. Wolf's doing really well. Gapping up and going. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. What is the money goal for you? For me, personally, I don't know. Money doesn't have much value to me. It's kind of mad. It's a mad thing to say as a trader, but yeah, I already have everything I want, so I don't really care. I guess like a slightly more longer term goal is I really want to be able to protect what I've got over the coming 4 to 6 years, because the theme of 2028 is going to be the biggest wealth divide anyone's ever seen. That's what's in the playbook. So if you think the wealth divide is bad now, then what's coming in 2028, between 2028 and 2032, that 4-year period, that is going to be severe. So I'm just trying to make sure I've still got what I've got going into that period, because I know that a bunch of people are going to be relying on me. Like, I've got family, extended family, brothers and sisters-in-laws and all of this. And yeah, I know those people are going to need me. So I guess that's my long-term money goal. Keep hold of what I got so that hopefully no one starves. Which is quite a quite sobering, nasty thought, really, isn't it? If you're great at managing risk, you will never get married. I mean, yeah, I am married. I got married last year. I've been with my wife for 10 years. We've been married for a year. And yeah, she's great. She's great. It was an easy decision. Hi Camel, interesting thoughts. Thanks. First live with the young Camel Crew. How do you manage risk on the long-term portfolio? I mean, for me, it would be to do with concentration. Like, I would want it's kind of a broad question because it depends on a lot of things, right? It depends on your age. For example, if you're 18 or 20 years old, then you can be pretty much all in crypto and weather that volatility. Doesn't matter. If you're 60, 65 or older, are you going to want an 80-volt asset to have a more than 5 or 10 or 15% in? I don't think so. So, yeah, it largely depends on that. It depends what your risk appetite and tolerance is. But overall, it's about looking at how much is in your account and figuring out how much is it reasonable to expect that to go up in a year. And then you definitely don't want to be taking more than 10% of that out of your account, right? It takes a long time to build this wealth. If you're giving back huge chunks of it, then that's not gonna cut it. A big way I personally like to manage the risk is using the cycles. So for example, when we got a 4-year cycle low in here, I had no problem going quote unquote all in on the long-term crypto part of my portfolio in here, because worst case scenario, the 12 to 14k gang were right. You know, worst case scenario, I sit on a, I don't know, 30% loss, paper loss for a little while, and then we start a 4-year cycle. So, and then by now that core allocation is up, I don't know, a couple 100%, right? 300 odd percent. So that's one way of doing it, is to use the cycles to your advantage. But again, it's all about how you size, right? If I've got £100,000 net worth and I put £100,000 in Bitcoin here, and it does go down significantly, or it does break and go to zero, well, then I've lost my entire liquid portfolio. So that's not how you want to do it. You want to figure out how much risk you can actually survive if you take it. And again, that's different for different people. Like if you've got a $100 million account, then you can afford to concentrate in other areas. If it depends on your income situation, right? If you've got a business that generates 40 million quid a year, then you can afford to take much bigger risks, because you're just going to make 40 million quid a year in income anyway. So, you know, it really depends a lot. CPI is in 15 minutes, brother. What's my bias today? I'm neutral, really, because it's CPI, so I just expect a bunch of chop and volatility. I've never publicly stated what my ratios are for my trading and long-term holds, but that's because, I mean, there's no point. Right? What does it matter? Why would you copy me? You're not as experienced as me. You have a different level of wealth, whether it's north or south. You are not the same age as me. You don't have the same risk appetite. You don't have the same underlying knowledge. You don't have the same discipline. So it's kind of irrelevant what my ratios are, right? It's like it's an individual thing. So I've deliberately stayed away from that because, you know, if you're 65, you don't want to be 100% in crypto. If I was 18, I probably would, right? And again, it comes down to things like, do you already own a house, right? Have you got any debt? Are you, what's the word? Anti-fragile. Are you anti-fragile, right? All of these things play into it. What your income level is, all of that plays into it. Have you got kids? You've got people that you need to feed. Mark, I have not, but I will check that out. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if does Henrik believe Bitcoin's going to disappear for a long time? I believe most of crypto is. I really do believe most of crypto is going to disappear. I always think of pets.com as the example. In the .com bubble, there was all this hype and this huge speculative blow off top. And then there's pets.com that didn't even have a shop. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't even have a shop. You couldn't order any dog food or anything from pets.com, and it reached this insane valuation just because people were like, yeah, buy that. And that's what the whole altcoin space reminds me of. That's what it all reminds me of. Just people are like, yeah, this is solving something that doesn't exist, right? This is solving a non-existent problem. Oh, this meme coin Pepe, I mean, it's done 1000x, therefore it must be good. Yeah, but we're openly creating these things as a joke just to watch them pump. And if I really don't see how they survive another cycle or two. I just don't see how that's the case, but I could easily be wrong about that. Yeah, that 5.3 rule, by the way, I completely broke in a video I titled "Everyone is wrong about 100k Bitcoin." That 5.3 rule is BS. I proved it, and don't take my word for it. Watch the video and then try to replicate it for yourself, because I see a lot of people talk about this. 5.3 rule it's absolute nonsense. Like, he fudged the data, and I proved that in the video. So go and watch that video, and then yeah, try it for yourself. Don't take my word for it, and try it for yourself. With entry and exit, the hardest thing to do is reinvest it all, so you end up with a smaller position. Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of cash in my trading account all the time because I don't want that much risk on. So I think there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of cash. People have this disease where they feel like if they've got cash, they're losing, which is kind of true in the long term, right? But you don't need to be 100% allocated. In fact, I was I wouldn't want to be 100% allocated or even close to it. And then that's why you see those people in the meme section. When I show those memes where it's so, you see like a dog drooling, and it's like me buying the dip, but I'm out of cash or whatever. And, you know, if you don't have cash, how are you going to buy the dip, right? Are you actually in peak form and condition as an investor and a trader if you've never got cash to take advantage of situations? Like, you need to have some cash. How would I compare my skills shorting versus longing the market? No, I don't consider myself very good at short selling, to be honest. It's not something I have anywhere near the amount of experience with as longs. And in a bear markets, historical bear markets, I tend to play counter trend bounces. So I'm noticing we're only 10 minutes away from CPI. As an example, here's the 2022 bear market, right? I was drawing things like this, playing this counter trend bounce from here to here, and then knowing that we're in a downtrend, making lower lows and lower highs, okay, I'm exiting very quickly. And then the same deal from here, in here perhaps, or in here, or in here, and then again, drawing another line in here, and being hyper aware that if we don't break out from the first two touches, then again, I'm out of the trade. So I like to play the counter trend bounces in a bear market rather than try to short the thing from the top. But I am going to be trying to short this if it's a parabolic blow off top. If we actually get a parabolic blow off top, then I will be looking to some shorts, because there's a really nice area to manage the risk around and a third angle. How about Nvidia? I don't know. How about it? Is that a real wick? Is that real? That's probably not right. Oh, is it? Have we had the share split? That's what it is. Oh, look at my TA. It broke my TA. Take this off of log. So it's even worse. I mean, there's definitely the three angles. In here, and here, and here. I don't know. If that's a real wick, then that's not a good sign. But it's probably got some upside left. I know a bunch of people want to short it. Not really for me personally. Not at this stage anyway. 6,000 on S&P. I've got 6,400. I've got 6,400, but we'll see. When are we rich? Rich is a relative term. How would I play Tesla stock? That purple trend line. What's that? Fat fingers. That purple trend line at the top. I don't need any of this stuff at all anymore. Right? None of that matters. Arguably, that doesn't matter. A lot of members were asking me about, should I buy this? And I was saying in the member section, I don't like it, because best case scenario, overhead resistance and overall weakness relative to the market. So I don't like this chart. For me, as you can see, the position's been here. Get above the purple, something else is going on, but I don't like the look of it at all, to be honest. And if it's this relatively, I can't speak, sorry, I'm so tired. relatively speaking, if it's this weak compared to the NASDAQ and the S&P, and we do get continuation and a blow off top followed by deflationary bust, then this thing is going to go like that, isn't it? Maybe not all the way down to negative numbers, of course, but I mean, back here might not be out of the question. Not a call or a prediction, but you've got to ask yourself, why is it trending down when the NASDAQ looks like that? You know, got to ask yourself these questions. All right, so we are 7 minutes away from the CPI data. Sorry, just drinking some water. Do you want the link to the 5.3? I'll show you how to find it. Look, just go to YouTube, Camel, type search in here, and type everyone is wrong about 100k Bitcoin. And there it is, 4 months ago, 79k max in the thumbnail. Everyone's wrong about Bitcoin. I wonder if I can share the link. Slap that in the chat. There you go. So don't take my word for it, okay? Try to replicate it for yourself. And yeah, I am self-taught. How's the market in the UK over the next 4 years? I think it bottoms sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. That's what I think. Typically speaking, we get the Bank of England to cut rates. Okay, houses fall for about 6 months following the first rate cut. Then we find a bottom, and then is when I'm looking to acquire some property. All right, we are 5 minutes out. I want to make this really clear just for a minute. You might have to bear with me. I've got this sat here to be posted to Twitter. And so when we get the numbers, I am just going to take, I don't know, a moment where I probably don't talk, just while I copy and paste these numbers in here and post it to Twitter, because it'll be easier for us to see it once it's this big on screen versus having a little look at this little corner here, especially if you're on a phone. Excuse me, swallowed so much air with that water. Yeah, so bear with me whilst I copy and paste that in. It is officially 5 minutes away until we get the CPI data. Then what we're going to do is we'll see how right or wrong the idea and expectation is of mine. We'll see how severe or or not severely detached from my expectations we are. I'll quickly and briefly talk about what I think is going to happen, and then, as per this, I think it'll be time to get back to work. And if there's anything that I think is tradable, I'll be letting the level 3 members know. So yeah, we're 5 minutes away. I'll answer a few more questions. Is Financial Juice any good? I only really use it for this data feed on the left. Weirdly enough, it doesn't ever show up on my phone. And I don't know if that's just because I'm not that technically savvy. You can see the tiredness catching up with me now, can't you? Yeah, so I use it for this. And it seems to be pretty good. Sometimes it takes 30 seconds, kind of glitches out for 30 seconds. But either way, it's good enough for me, right? I don't need it to be... I'm not a day trader. I'm not looking to see the print and immediately enter positions. So this works for me, but that's all I really use it for, just these live data feeds. And it is free as well. I sound well educated. I'm from a very poor background, believe it or not, but I have got a degree in chemistry. I don't know if that counts as well educated. Favorite rum? I like Morgan Spiced, to be honest. That's my favorite, and it's cheap. Is Powell going to be wearing 2 purple ties today? I mean, if he does, that will break the matrix, right? What will we even do about that situation? You're very polite. Oh, thanks. Give me all you got. What do you mean? Oh, markets, okay. Chemist Camel. Yeah, university is a scam. Honestly, that's my opinion. Not a dark rum fan. I'll drink dark rum. I'm not really into the light rums, but dark or spiced is fine. Jamaican. Every year, my wife gets me an advent calendar around Christmas time with every door's got a different Jamaican rum in, and some of those are really good. But I just don't drink enough in general to justify, like, do you know what I mean? Like getting a bunch of exquisite rums in. I don't really care. I just drink it. It all tastes pretty bad. The chava that made it out. When do I think the top for the crypto market comes? I think it comes sooner than that. A lot sooner than that. But I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Do I like mojitos? I don't even know what that... I'm not entirely sure what that is. I probably have had one, but... How old am I? You sound 12, but you talk like you're 35. Yeah, everyone thinks I'm a lot younger than I am. But I've been, 14 years trading. I did a 4-year degree. I was 6 years in the pharmaceutical industry, so you can do the maths. I'm not 12, though, I promise you. Swedish fish, smiley. Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. And I already said this, I think, but if whoever it was that sent me a gold back, a gold impregnated dollar, thank you very much. But I couldn't reach out and say thanks personally because it only says just for you, Mr. Camel, enjoy. So whoever that was, thank you very much. Can you see the countdown? That's it, we're done, right? So see if we can get the data. Where is it? Where'd it go? There we go. Cold CPI print coming at 3.3%. So as I said, give me a minute. It always glitches out. There we go. Right, let's put the numbers in and then we will discuss them. So 3.3 for year over year, headline below the forecast. 0% CPI month over month, as you can see right here. Below forecasted and significantly below the 0.3 prior. Core CPI coming at 3.4. Oh damn! These are gonna rocket. I've lost my train of thought. Got hard on for the data. Right, 1 second. I can't do all this. I'm too tired. 3.4. Did that say? And then 0.2. Okay, that looks about right. So double check. 3.3, 0, 0.0, 3.4, 0.2. Post to Twitter. And there we go. There we go. So, I mean, is it cold enough? Headline 3.3 year over year, which is below the forecasted and only 0.1% below the prior month. So that's not bad. But here's the thing, right? Month over month, 0% below the prior of 0.3 and below the forecast of 0.1. Okay, core CPI 3.4 below the forecast of 3.5 and a little bit even further below the prior readout, and then 0.2 month over month for core below 0.3 and 0.3. So it's moving in the right direction. It is moving in the right direction. Where's my slide? This is the one I wanted. So it'll be interesting if what we're going to see now is something like this, right? Are we going to see that? Would that make sense in hindsight? Would that make sense? It's a bit of a sus squiggle. Would that make sense in hindsight, right? Is it normal and to be expected that what you do to the M2 rate of change manifests here, albeit with a lag? So VIX getting crushed. Note the VIX getting crushed. I suspect we're going to get some breakout trades on. Look at the gap. Okay, this is looking a lot like third angle stuff, isn't it? This is looking quite a lot like it might be third angle time. So that's something. Bitcoin getting a pop. Okay. Yeah, it's happening, guys. It's happening, right? Gold, remember the cycles are down, so any pop's probably going to get faded. Is the dollar coming off? Come on, dollar. Trading view's broken. We'll answer some questions while that catches up. I see the comments popping off. Let's go. Yeah. So here's the dollar chart, okay? Look at that. So back below, on our way to the cycle low. I mean, if it was going to happen, it really had to happen now. I wonder if we can get that final push that lower in the dollar, right? Ahead of those rate cuts. What are the rates saying? Okay, that's the 10-year yield. Okay, tell it to the bond market. What about the 2-year yield? Tell it to the bond market, okay? Goodness me. Let's go. Let's go. I'm not a legend for my calls. I'm more of a stopped clock, right? I'm more of a stopped clock. But from time to time, we do get them right. So yeah, I mean, pretty good. Now, maybe I am just a bit timid about this. Not this particularly, but the stock market, right? I don't know if this is the case. I don't know necessarily if this is coming. I don't know if Powell's going to say something that perhaps reverses this. Okay, so I want to be open to that. But to be honest, we got some positions on. We'll be able to find some more for members. I bet these ones are going to be... yeah, all right. Well, I'm going to hang around for a few more minutes. And then really, I got to go to the member section and sort these guys out, I think. So overall, let's have a quick recap of... Where is it? I've lost it. Of this, right? So a quick recap of this. Not bad, right? Colder, in line with expectations, makes sense from an M2 perspective, makes sense that this looked like it's rolling over and continues to roll over, makes sense from this perspective as well. Possibly looking for third angles, possibly got to entertain an early cycle low here, okay? But again, it is CPI day. What is happening? Come here. There we go. Possibly this is what's in play. But again, I don't want to be chasing this market just yet because Powell could easily say something hawkish and then, needless to say, we would get that forced cycle low. But on a balance of probabilities, it looks like blow off top stuff, right? It looks like blow off top stuff. So yeah, I'm going to hang around for like 5 more minutes and just catch up on a couple of comments. And then, like I said, I think it's time to go to work, which is cool. But yeah, good job, Cracky Camel. Thank you very much. You know what Hugh Hendry says, if you want to see the future, you got to get high, right? Or you got to get high to see the future. Something like that. The what podcast? You're still plastering CPM. Oh dear. When's Powell speaking? I think Powell's speaking, it says it somewhere here. I think it's 7 or 7:30 GMT. And for context, it's currently 1:30-ish GMT. So in the not too distant future, Powell will be speaking. And let's be honest, okay? I think this is the thing we need to focus on. The stage is now set because not only have we got inflation allegedly on its way to that 2% target, right? Not only have we got that supported by today's CPI print, but as I showed you earlier, we've also got the rest of these central banks cutting, haven't we? So the fact that the rest of these central banks are cutting, the fact that they don't often diverge for very long, tells us that the stage is set. Powell has all the excuses he needs to come out and say, we did it, we tamed inflation, it's well on its way back to our target of 2%. We are in favour of a cut earlier than most people anticipated. And then he can append some kind of caveat to that, right? He can come out and say, well, it's possible that, you know, we'll go data dependent for a while. That's probably what he'll say. You know, so long as inflation keeps going towards 2% and we're confident it's going to go down there and be sustained there, then, you know, then we'll be open to... I can't talk. I need some sleep. Then we'll be open to cutting rates, okay? Then we'll be open to cutting rates. And that is all the market will need. That's all the market will need to hear to start to front run those rate cuts. Because, like I said earlier, it knows. The market knows what I've been talking about, that if the 2-year yield's going to come off, the Fed's going to cut, then historically speaking, tough times come for the stock market shortly thereafter, right? All of this against a global backdrop of spiking inflation, and you know the rest, right? You know the rest. And if you don't, we'll do it on the deep dive at the weekend. But markets are forward looking. They will probably start to price this in. We're probably going to get a big upsize squeeze towards that 6,400 level. And Bitcoin is probably going to break its all-time high, I would think, assuming Powell doesn't come out with hawkish overtones in its speak later on. So cautiously optimistic here. And I think that's all there is to say, to be honest, apart from let's go. Seems like we're going to make it, boys and girls, as RV says. Yeah, seems to be the way. Hugh Hendry is, I love that guy. I really do. He's so funny. Yeah, okay. Well, I think I need to go for a smoke, calm down a little bit. And then, like I said, I'm going to turn and take care of the members. So thank you all for being here. And I love each and every one of you. This is a fantastic community and I absolutely love what I do. So thank you for enabling this. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, look out for that purple tie, right? Look out for some games and chop, right? Because just because we're going to squeeze higher doesn't mean we can't have like 700 point red candles tomorrow in the Dow. That's certainly on the table. That wouldn't, if that happened, then we would just say, well, that's what CPI does sometimes, right? So as ever, manage the risk, do what you can, and just be a professional, right? I'll be back tomorrow. And like I said, if you're a level 3 member, look out for a video I'm going to have to do and outline a few things that I'm looking at. But cautiously optimistic, everything looks good. So hopefully what comes in now is that third angle across the board. Hopefully. Now we're by no means out of the woods, but the cycles are in our favour, the weekly cycles at least. The setup there is there. The front run for the rate cuts, the inflation coming off, it's all there. And the only missing component is to actually set that third and final angle. And the same is true of Bitcoin, right? Nobody wanted to hear this thing's probably going to top in a few weeks' time. Maybe July, August. No one wants to hear it. But if it starts to do third angle things, and it has not, let's be clear, it has not done that yet. But if it starts to do third angle things, then you know the rest, right? So again, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to making the next video. Until then, manage the risk. Look after yourselves. I'm your boy Camel. All the best. Cheers. Bye.